reaches, throws that ball's out, that's live! Back the other way, Sam Hubbard! The Cincinnati Kid! Hubbard's got a convoy! Chased by Andrews! At the 30, the 20, he will score!
To the end zone, down the field, and it is deflected, and gone! Touchdown! A.J. Green!
Over goes back to throw, men are coming late, looks right down the middle, there's Eddie Brown, he has it at the 35 to the 30, he may go, 10-5, touchdown!
Now the Bengals Super Bowl chances rest on his right foot. The kick is up.
Yeah.
It is good.
Corey Dillon, he's gone. The knockout punch, you're looking at it. 65 yards. And they're back to throw as the blitz is on. Goes long, intended for Collinsworth. He has it down to the 20, touchdown. And Chris Collinsworth.
Throwing the long ball. Deep down the field. Chad Johnson's got it. Touchdown. Cincinnati.
Chase go! Oh my goodness, what a gear he just found! Chase for the touchdown! Wow, Chase is on the case!
It is no fluke. It is a fact. The Cincinnati Bengals are headed to Super Bowl 56. The play clock at 3. Shotgun snap. Carr throws into traffic. Intercepted. Jermaine Pratt has the football.
Yeah.
Coffin nails.
Bam, bam, bam! How about that?
Craig Sandlin, Jacob Tissot here for your postgame show. And Craig, I thought we were going to get a win today. An 0-2 start for the Bengals means 2 sad postgame shows for us here at Chatterbox Bengals. Thought it would turn around and couldn't have been more wrong. I wish I had a little bit more energy for you, but I'm out. I'm tapped out, and I really could not be lower right now. I know if you tuned in for the whole game watch along stream, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks for sticking around for the post game show. Make sure to like the stream, get interactive in the chat. If you have any questions, put them in there. We'll make sure we get to them before we get out of here tonight. But I would ask you how you're doing, like I do every show, but I think that would be a useless question at this point.
Look, the Bengals came into today with a very clear expectation. Today was a must-win. 3 of the next 4 were must-wins.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, there was no excuse for them not to be coming out of this stretch 3-3. And instead, what happens? They allow a rookie quarterback to go 21 of 23 for 254 yards and 2 touchdowns. That same rookie quarterback rushes 12 times for 39 yards and a touchdown. And it just absolutely falls apart, and they fall to 0-3. And I heard you say it on the live stream during the game, but this is not familiar territory for the Bengals. They've had slow starts before, without a doubt. But the thing that's alarming to me, I think more than anything, is that 2 of the 3 games are losses to teams you have zero business losing to, and quite frankly, zero business even being in a competition with, let alone losing. The plan on defense was quite clear from the very start, and that was they were going to make Jayden Daniels beat them. The run game was something that we talked about coming into the game this week, about how we needed to shut down Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, and quite frankly, the Bengals defense did that.
Yeah.
But Lou Anarumo, who has built a name for himself off of second-half adjustments over the course of the last 6 years, did absolutely nothing in this game to make those adjustments that were necessary. And instead, 0 punts for the Washington Commanders today, 38 points on the board, and the Bengals fall to 0-3.
I said it on the stream, and I'll say it again here. I said before the game that if we make Jayden Daniels throw the ball, we're going to be able to win. And boy, oh boy, do I look silly. 21 of 23, like you said, for over 250 yards. And he had a 91% completion percentage, which is a rookie record. One of the best outings we've ever seen from a rookie quarterback when it comes to efficiency and productivity. No punts. The only drive that they didn't score on is a drive they take a knee. I mean, just an unbelievably bad showing for this defense. And I thought in week 2 against the Chiefs, I thought we took a step and we looked like a much better team, and we did. That wasn't a dream. We played the Chiefs to the last play of the game, a team that's the bona fide number 1 team in the league. No matter where you look, no matter who you talk to, we play them to the last play of the game, and then you get ran off the field. I don't know how else to phrase it other than getting ran off the field by the Commanders. I mean, that score 33-38, not even remotely representative of how this game went. The entire time from after that Jamar Chase bomb until the final whistle of the game, the first Jamar Chase bomb, until the final whistle of the game, the Bengals never had control. That first play, that touchdown to Jamar Chase, you felt good. You thought the offense might be back. My reaction was, it was completely genuine. It's exactly what I wanted to see. I thought this team, all they needed was to get Jamar Chase rolling and Joe Burrow going, and 33 points on offense, it certainly looks great, but when your defense is going to allow 38, that's not a recipe for success in the NFL. Saw chatters the whole day saying this defense isn't good, but if we can score 30, it's okay. Well, maybe it's not. How bad is this defense really? Because through 3 weeks, it looks even worse than our wildest nightmares. We knew the running game or the run defense was going to be a struggle after losing DJ Reader and trying to have 2 rookies really fill that slot. We knew the secondary was going to be tough with a new corner in Dax Hill, Cam Taylor-Britt taking on more responsibilities as the number 1, a new safety duo, Von Bell, Geno Stone. Guys we expected a lot out of, but a lot of new bodies out there. We knew there would be some growing pains in the defense. I had more faith in Lou Anarumo getting this group ready to go, getting this group ready to attack, and they certainly haven't been so far. I thought a lot of those guys were going to step into roles more seamlessly right away, be more plug-and-play guys. Dax Hill struggled. He looked good against Kansas City, but the first half against the Patriots and then this whole game, really, he struggled. No one can tackle on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know what the silver lining is anymore at this point for the defense, because there's not a whole lot that I can point to and say, yeah, we're going to get better. We're going to get competitive here. This defense isn't going to be a joke all year long, but the more and more I watch this defense, the more and more it seems like this is just who we are. We don't have the pieces to be a good defense. And at some point, I worry about the long-term solutions for that side of the ball, because I'm not going to put a nail in the coffin for this season at 0-3. We have Joe Burrow at quarterback and a lot of playmakers on both sides of the ball that I think we can claw back and still make this an exciting season. But when we're talking about the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl, this defense is so far away from being good enough to do so.
Look, there's so many things that I want to say. It's just so frustrating, right? I mean, here's the thing, right? Is that the first 2 weeks, one of the things that the Bengals at least seemingly did a little better was pressure the quarterback. And tonight it didn't feel like they really got a ton of pressure on Jayden Daniels. And when they did, they had such poor zone alignment and such poor whatever I'm trying to say. They didn't stay home, right? So the minute that they start to get pressure,
bad discipline,
wide open, terrible discipline. So as soon as they start to get pressure, big wide open gaps for Daniels to run through, and he gashed them several times for big pickups because of it. And it's just, and look, I'm not going to get too deep into blaming specific players too early, but Trey Hendrickson was a guy who after 2 weeks we thought could be a cornerstone of this defense. Tonight didn't really do a whole lot. Finally did pick up a sack there late in the fourth quarter. But just in general, this entire defense didn't really get a whole lot of pressure on Jayden Daniels, and the few times that they did, left it wide open for him to gash them. It was interesting. They pulled it up on the broadcast at one point, and I'm excited to see, not excited, but interested to see what the final stat line was. But when the Bengals didn't blitz Jayden Daniels, he was 9 for 9 at one point. And the fact that it felt like they picked it up a little bit towards the end of the game when maybe they thought the Commanders were going to run the ball a bit more or whatever. But like, even when they did bring 6 towards the end of the game, it just never got home. And it just terrible pass rushing. You allow a guy in Zach Ertz to beat you multiple times towards the end of the game in what was very predictable scenarios. And the dagger, that 27-yard touchdown to Terry McLaurin, the announcers literally told you what they were going to do before they ran the play.
Yeah.
Third and whatever it was. I have it written down. Hold on. Let me pull it up.
We do have a super chat while you're pulling that up. BearPod 199 says, Bengals fans, tears keep me young. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it, whether you're a hater or a fan. Make sure you like the stream while you're in here. It means a lot for everyone tuning in.
Yeah, so Zach Ertz picks up a first down. He picks up 9. The defense gives him a huge cushion. 1st and 10, Robinson for 1. 2nd and 9, Robinson for 2. Announcers literally come out and they say, watch for a shot play. It's 3rd and 7. They're in field goal range at the 27-yard line. They have nothing to lose here at this point. Watch out for the shot play. You've got one-on-one defense on the outside, and what happens? Dax Hill bites on a double move, gets burned by Terry McLaurin, dagger to the hearts in a moment where I think a lot of Bengals fans were holding out hope. Oh, we can come back. We can make this happen. No, didn't happen. Commanders pull ahead. Touchdown Terry McLaurin. Bengals left with their tail between their legs yet again. And here we are yet again talking about the defense not living up to expectations. And quite frankly, just maybe a better way to put it is they were living up to exactly the expectations we have for them, which was very little.
That's the sad thing at this point is, what do we expect from the defense? Do we expect something better than this? Because at some point you just are who you are. And through 3 weeks of the season, the Bengals defense is a defense that can't cover and can't tackle. And I don't really know what else you ask defenders to do other than those two things. The Bengals had the Commanders backed up all the way at a 2nd and 21 with a chance to get the ball back. Jayden Daniels gets a short pass out to the flat, and De'Ami Brown makes about 5 guys miss. And then on 3rd and 12, Jayden Daniels throws for another 8-yard pass and then converts a 4th down. You finally get the Commanders behind the sticks in a must-win situation, and you can't get the job done. Everyone in the chat, and all due respect to our chat, I know we're all ball knowers. I know our fans are great. But if you guys know what the Commanders are going to do, I hope Lou Anarumo and the Bengals know what the Commanders are going to do. He's an NFL defensive coordinator. He should be able to see these things coming if all of us can see it coming. And as the Commanders lined up for a 4th down snap, the entire chat is, hey, let's put someone on Jayden Daniels. They're going to run a read option here. He's a great scrambling quarterback. Let's put something on Jayden Daniels. And Jayden Daniels is able to squeeze through and run for a 1st down. It's unacceptable. How do we not know what's going on? How do we not defend against a guy who was perfect against the blitz? Obviously perfect against almost everything with a 91% completion percentage. But perfect against the blitz. And you just let him sit back there more often than not? This pass rush is a massive problem. We're going to get to it in a few things on the ticker. I want to touch on something positive here real quick. Just try to get a little bit of excitement back. But, man, this team's roster construction is becoming a real problem. But before we get into all that, let's take the one positive note from today's game. And it is a big positive. Through 2 weeks, Joe Burrow looked all right against the Chiefs, but certainly not all the way to the Joe Burrow we know and love. Jamar Chase has been dragging, to say the least, through 2 weeks of the season. And today, they both looked back to form. Obviously, Burrow, a lot of garbage time yards there with that last touchdown drive with the Zach Moss carry to cap it off. But he finishes with 324 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Jamar Chase has a great day as well. Joe Burrow, 29 of 38 for 324 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jamar Chase, 6 catches, over 100 yards for the first time this season, 2 touchdowns for him. Andre Yoshivas doing a little bit more than just being a red zone threat, 5 catches, 52 yards, and a touchdown. But a really great thing was the running game taking a big step today. Zach Moss, 12 carries, 58 yards, and a touchdown. Chase Brown being the true lightning to that thunder with 7 carries for 62 yards. I liked a lot of what I saw out of the offense, but the most encouraging thing for the long stretch of the season is 9-1 is back. 9-1 is back. And when you needed it most, they did it twice. And I know the Bengals didn't get out of here with a win, and that's the thing we all focus on right now, and that's certainly what I'm focusing on. But trying to take some silver linings here. You open the game with a shot play, you convert it. That gets the juices flowing. You knew you needed to get Jamar Chase the ball. You threw it to him 3 times on the opening drive. That's exactly what the Bengals offense needed to do, and they recognized how important it was to get their star players rolling early, and they did that. And then at the end of the game, when you need a touchdown to keep it close, You find Jamar Chase again. That's the reassuring thing about this Bengals team, and what we've come to know for the last few years is that when our backs are against the wall, 9's going to find one and we're going to be okay. And today, at least for a point on offense, that was the case. And that was great to see. And the rest of the offense really did step up as well. But those two, looking back to that all-pro form that we know and expect and quite honestly need from both of them to be a competitive team, was very refreshing.
Well, let's talk about why that was. I don't think that Jamar Chase was necessarily down the first 2 weeks. I don't think Joe Burrow was necessarily that bad the first 2 weeks. What was happening was that Jamar Chase was getting absolutely blanketed and double teamed all the time. And what needed to happen was T. Higgins needed to come back, and that's what happened. T. Higgins finishes the day with 3 catches for 39 yards, but I think his value was felt beyond that. Obviously, Jamar Chase being able to break open 6 for 118, largely due in part to T. Higgins being back on and drawing attention of the defense. I think additionally, Andre Yoshivas settling back into that third wide receiver role, going 5 for 52 with a touchdown. He looked much better today, and a role that really fits him a little bit better, where he doesn't have to be a go-to guy, and he can be that guy that is able to fill the role as the number 3 wide receiver. His long catch of the day was only 16 yards. It's all it needed to be.
Yeah.
But what he did was run really nice routes. They're showing it on TV right now on ABC 9, WCPO, no free ads. That little fake in and then out on the goal line for that touchdown that he ran was really nice route. And quite frankly, when he's able to have that and they don't have defenses keying in on him because guys like T. Higgins are back in the lineup, it opens this offense up a whole lot more. Now, I know one thing that you're going to want to talk about related to the receiving core. In the first half, Jermaine Burton gets 2 snaps, runs 2 routes, and that's about it. We didn't really see much out of him today. Right. I'm not really sure what to expect from him out of the gate or moving forward. Trent Irwin, a healthy inactive today, that left Jermaine Burton on the active roster, ends up without a target on the day. So, look, Jamar Chase, great to see him productive again. My fantasy team really appreciates it. Yeah. I know that's what everybody cares about in this scenario. But look, I think ultimately it comes down to this is a team that when it is fully healthy and has all of its weapons available to it, can and should be a team that puts up 30 points a game. That part I don't think was ever really a question.
Yeah.
And ultimately the question now turns to, okay, your offense is back on track, but you just allowed the Commanders to put up 38 on you. So what's next, right? And I don't know that that's Lou Anarumo. I don't know that that's Zach Taylor. But somewhere the accountability has to come in. I just got done doing a podcast this afternoon with Nick Kirby about the Cincinnati Reds and their managerial search. I sure hope that I'm not the bad luck charm. I hope that I don't join a Chatterbox regular show and become the bringer of all negative. Call me the Grim Reaper, and all of a sudden the coaching staff has to be looked at in terms of whether or not they can be a long-term solution. I don't want to be part of that. I'll quit the show if it really comes down to it. But look, I think there has to be serious questions at this point about what is next for this coaching staff and how do we bounce back? Because if you allow Jayden Daniels to pick you apart for 21 for 23 and 12 rushes for 39 yards, I'm really nervous to see what happens when they face off against Lamar Jackson in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I keep coming back to. If you can't beat the Patriots and the Commanders, who can you beat? And I hate to, dwiddle the NFL down to that basic of a talking point, but these are 2 teams that were projected to be at the bottom of the league. And I understand that Jayden Daniels put together a great game, and I think he's going to be a great quarterback in the future in this league, but he's not right now. He didn't score a touchdown last week against the Giants, who were supposed to be picking number 1 in the draft. They held him to 7 field goals. And the Bengals defense was nowhere close to getting a stop. And at some point, I know we can keep sitting here and talking about the players and the personnel, and we'll even get into it again in the next topic, but I put coaching staff on the ticker for a reason, and it's because the entire game, the chat was just banging the table, saying that there's no one else to blame but the coaching staff. And at some point, I have to side with him. I know I'm a big Zach Taylor guy. I have faith in him, and I am incredibly appreciative to what he's done for this Bengals franchise. He has more playoff wins than any head coach that I've ever seen coach this team, and more playoff wins than anyone's ever seen. Any head coach anyone's ever seen coach this team. So he's a guy that's brought this Bengals team to new levels that we haven't seen in a long time, and I know a lot of that's because of Joe Burrow, if not all of it is because of Joe Burrow. I remember how hot his seat was before Joe Burrow got here and turned this franchise around, but you can't do it alone, and I think Zach does deserve some credit for where this team has gotten to, but at some point these slow starts are his fault. I don't know who else to blame, because there's only one guy in charge of the offseason program. There's only one guy whose job title it is to get the guys ready to play. And these guys have not looked ready to play in the first month of the season in a long time.
Well, look, I don't know what the answer is yet. I'm past the slow start though. I'm past the slow start. And Reed put it in the chat. I don't remember off the top of my head a team with such an elite offense and such a terrible defense. Yeah. And there was room in the salary cap for them to address this defense. And there were very clear needs that needed to be addressed with this defense. And yet the Bengals chose not to do that. And so ultimately, while I have a lot of anger towards Lou Anarumo right now, while I have some anger towards Zach Taylor right now, ultimately, I've got a lot of anger towards Duke Tobin.
Yeah.
And I realize that he's not out there playing. I realize that he can only put together the squad that he has available to him. But at the end of the day, this defense coming into this season, we knew there was deficiencies on the defensive line.
That's right.
We knew there was deficiencies in the secondary, and they did nothing to address either one of those. They brought in Sheldon Rankins. I'll give them a little bit of credit for that. But we knew Sheldon Rankins wasn't the run-stopping defensive tackle, that nose tackle that we needed. And so here we are now, where this team is up against the wall at sitting at 0-3 because this defense can't hold the Washington Commanders to under 33 points. They can't force a single punt. They force one field goal the entire game. And yes, again, Zach Taylor's got to take some of the blame. Lou Anarumo's got to take some of the blame. The players have to take a lot of the blame. They have to step up and make a stop. They had so many opportunities where it felt like, again, you mentioned the 2nd and 21 backed up in their own territory. But when it comes down to it, and I keep playing it over and over and over in my head, I just keep coming back to Duke Tobin. And it's unfortunate because I think that Duke Tobin and Zach Taylor have drafted extremely well.
Yeah.
And I think they've made some really good moves. It just never feels like they make the offseason move to really put them over the hump. And that's the frustrating part for me. And it feels reminiscent of the Reds, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
The Reds had a lot of really good young pieces. They draft pretty well. They develop talent. They're maybe a piece or two away from really being a contender, and they just don't make the move. They go out and sign Jamer Candelario to be their star player. And just like that, the Bengals signed Sheldon Rankins to be their key offseason addition, and it just doesn't feel big enough. And I don't know how that changes. I don't know if it comes back to Mike Brown. I don't know if it falls on Duke Tobin. I don't know if Zach Taylor just isn't advocating for it. But at the end of the day, the roster just isn't there defensively. They focused a lot on the offense, rightfully so. But this team cannot and will not compete to get back to the Super Bowl if they don't address this defense.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people in the chat banging the table right now saying you got to blame the players. The GM and DC aren't the ones missing tackles, and I get that that's fair, but when we're sitting here before the season on cut day talking about how we're worried about the personnel on this defense, how does the front office not recognize that this could possibly be a problem? Because they didn't do anything to address it. We see guys get hurt in week 2, and they go out and sign Lawrence Guy, who is probably the best one available, and he's out there. I can't wait for the snap count numbers to come out. He was out there a ton tonight. He got there in the beginning of the week. We're forced to run every single body we have in the trenches out there now. And with Trent Brown hurt, there's no wiggle room at tackle anymore, injury-wise. We have no backups at tackle. Amarius Mims, a guy who struggled with injuries his entire career, now has to be healthy for 15 games or so. I don't know. I really don't know what the plan was if we faced any injuries, because we've seen that the defensive backfield depth is struggling. Jordan Battle obviously not good enough to get a whole lot of reps, so if a safety goes down, what are we going to do there? The corners have struggled. Dax Hill has struggled mightily, so if DJ Turner's not good enough to take that spot, what happens if one of him or Cam Taylor-Britt gets hurt? A lot of people really sour on the linebackers. The D-line is already banged up. We're down to the bottom of the barrel there, depth-wise. I mean, there's just no way up for this defense that I can see, other than a few guys taking massive steps. And we need guys on the offensive side of the ball to take steps too. I mean, Amarius Mims is going to have to be a lockdown right tackle right away, because we're going to need him to be. I mean, Trent Brown's been a hole in this offensive line through 2 weeks, and hopefully Mims can slide in and be ready to go right away. But as a rookie starting his first game tonight, he allowed a sack and had a penalty. So, I mean, you can't necessarily expect him to be an all-pro right away, even though I still have a lot of faith in him long term. But this team's in a really, really tough spot. Before we talk about just how tough that spot is, I know we talked about
just
the
real
box
quick
score.
Real quick. I just want to say one more thing about the roster construction, and this is again goes to the difficulties that I'm having with it, and I think it goes back to a little bit of a lack of trust in the front office,
right,
in the way that they've handled the draft moving forward. But after this season, you are likely to lose T. Higgins.
Yep.
And so the question becomes, we don't feel like Andre Yoshivas is ready to slide into that number 2 wide receiver. Hasn't necessarily shown that over the first 2 weeks. Looked better today, but again, he looked good in that third receiver role, which you've talked about before. It's a lot easier to make that jump from third to second than it is from second to first than it is from third to second. It just doesn't feel like he's ready. And so now I'm worried, okay, we're going to get through this year. T. Higgins is going to leave in free agency. And then the Bengals are yet again going to focus on offense in the draft, and the defense is yet again going to be left behind.
Yep.
And so it just feels a little bit like a never-ending cycle to me. And so that's a little bit of a concern moving forward. And I want to real quick before we move forward, we've got over 300 people watching at 11:30 at night, Eastern time. I just want to take a second and say I appreciate every single one of you for being here.
No
appreciate all of the Chatterbox partners who enable a show like this to exist. We do it for you guys. Obviously, you see Jacob's emotions throughout the game. We really do care, and we want this team to succeed. And we appreciate you being here. Having 300 plus people watching on a night like tonight makes it a little bit more palatable to have to do a show like this.
That's right.
And then to bounce back and do another show tomorrow.
That's
where
right.
we break down film and really dive in a little bit more. We just really appreciate you. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We'll be live at 6 p.m. Eastern time, breaking down some video and some film, going a little bit deeper into this Bengals loss. So appreciate you all. Now let's talk about what's next.
This is a lot of negative on the roster construction, and I do just want to touch on one little positive with the roster so far, and that today was the run game. Through the first 2 weeks, I know Mixon had a crazy game week 1 in Houston, and a lot of people were really loud saying the Bengals made a mistake letting Mixon go and attacking this backfield with Zach Moss and Chase Brown. Well, today it looked great. Zach Moss, 7 carries for 62 yards, or 12 carries for 58 yards and a touchdown. Chase Brown over 8.5 yards per carry, almost 9 on 7 touches. That's a perfect Thunder and Lightning backfield. And we saw it today, how they were able to mash up together and really be a great change of pace against this Commanders defense. The Bengals were able to run at a rate that we haven't seen in a long time. 20 carries for 124 yards and a touchdown is not a stat line we've become accustomed to by this Bengals offense when it comes to running the football. We've ran the football under 20 times, more than I can ever imagine in my life in this current Joe Burrow era. It just seems like something that we're not committed to. And as of today, it seems like we have 2 backs that A, we trust and believe in getting the job done, and B, actually do so. Because it's one thing to trust guys and give them the ball, and it's another thing for them to actually execute on those carries. And today, Zach Moss and Chase Brown did so. I know the offense, it scored 33 points, and we're not going to talk about how good they looked because it's all on the defense and it's all on the loss, and that's just how it works out. And tomorrow when we have clearer heads and get a night of sleep and we can really wallow in this pain, maybe we'll be able to find a few more bright spots. But one that I saw tonight was the run game, because it's something I was concerned about with 2 guys that have never had bell cow roles. We're still finding a way to not give either a true number 1 running back set, which I think is the best way for us to succeed running the football. I really like this backfield, and they showed me today that they can really get it done. But that's really the only positive. Obviously Burrow looked good, but that the running game really did.
Yeah, I felt like the offensive line, for the most part, did pretty well. I mean, you talked about the run game opening up holes there. I can only really remember one, maybe two plays where the running backs were even met in the backfield. For the most part, it felt like they were gaining a couple of yards before they ever got contacted. Joe Burrow on a lot of plays felt like he had a lot of time to get the ball away. Only ended up sacked twice, which again, we don't want him to be sacked at all, but sacked twice compared to what we've experienced in the past for this offensive line. I feel like the offensive line in general performed pretty well and probably deserves a little bit of a shout out, especially with Trent Brown going down. And I don't know that I've seen an update yet on that, but Trent Brown left in the Bengals' third drive. He was declared out pretty quickly with a knee injury. I don't know for sure what happened there. I've seen some videos and some potential X.com doctors weigh in. I'm not going to do that. If you really care, if you go on Twitter and search for Trent Brown's name, you'll see plenty of videos and explanations of what may or may not have happened. But ultimately, the replay show that it did appear to be a non-contact injury. So Amarius Mims able to slide in today. You mentioned did give up the one sack and the one penalty. But in general, for somebody's first appearance and being thrown into the scenario that he wasn't necessarily expecting, in general, without watching the film, I feel decent about Amarius Mims' performance today. But we talked about this on Cut Day. Your tackle depth chart began and ended with the Browns and Amarius Mims. And so now if Brown is out for any sort of extended period of time, Cody Ford becomes your backup tackle?
Yeah.
Question mark?
Yeah.
I don't know. So we saw the Lawrence Guy signing, and be ready for an offensive lineman signing as well, because initial indications were not positive on Trent Brown.
Talked about it at the beginning of the show. I saw a lot of people with the same sentiment after the game, that the Bengals have been here before. The slow starts are a thing that we've battled back through, and I just want to take another moment to pound home that this is not true. This is not a place that the Bengals have been before. 0-3 in a hole looking like this on the defensive side of the football is not something we have battled back from before. It's not something that I necessarily have faith that we can battle back from. Will we still be a fringe playoff team? Can we still fight for the North? Sure, maybe. That's great. This defense needs to take such massive, massive steps for us to be competitive that this hole is so much deeper than 0-3. This hole is so much deeper than 0-3. It's organizationally deep. It's roster built deep. And there needs to be some massive, massive changes in order for this team to have a chance this year or any year in the future. And I'm not talking about just roster changes like we talked about a few minutes ago. I'm talking about organizational philosophy changes. Because if we could point to one thing, maybe we're 1-2 right now if Jamar Chase is extended and he doesn't have that blow up against the Chiefs and he's happy and he goes through an offseason. Maybe the offense starts hot against the Patriots if you can nullify some of those offseason, distractions that happened throughout the season. And then we're not nearly as tore up talking about being in the basement of the AFC after a loss to the Commanders. You force yourself to have to win every game from here. You literally force yourself to have to win every game. And it's sad. It's really sad because Bengals fans deserve better. And at the end of the day, we thought going into this season we were going to have a competitive team that was going to fight for a Super Bowl. And through 3 weeks, it couldn't look further from that. And honestly, at the end of the day, who I feel worse for is Bengal fans because we've waited our entire life for a competitive chance. And as of right now, we're not getting it this year. We have to wait another year. So hopefully something can change. Craig, before we wrap it up, we're going to get out of here
real
early
quick. Here's the bad news is that since 1990, only 4 teams of 162 that started 0-3, 2.5%, have gone on to make the playoffs.
Yep.
In total, ever, there have only been 6 ever to do it. And one of those was a strike-shortened season where they didn't play the full season. So 5, essentially.
Yeah.
Only one team has done it since 2000. And so look, you may sit here and you may say, oh, we've been here before, or, oh, we can come back from this. The odds don't say that.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like the Bengals can't be that. The 2018 Texans were the last team to do it. They ended 11-5 and won the AFC South. But we all remember how putrid the AFC South was in the late 2010s. They were terrible. Unfortunately, the Bengals don't have a division where they can easily go 6-0 and rack up wins within the division. The Steelers are sitting at 3-0. The Ravens picked up a win this weekend against the Cowboys. Like, I don't know what to tell you. The Browns are the Browns. As Casey will tell you, the Browns
and they have a win.
And they have a win.
Like,
so look, you're sitting in the cellar of the AFC North at 0-3, and you've got 3 teams sitting above you who, quite frankly, if you face them today, I don't feel good about any of the matchups. I really don't. And when you have a defense who can't stop a run, can't stop a mobile quarterback, can't win one-on-one matchups on the outside against aging receivers in Terry McLaurin. No offense to Terry, Ohio State Buckeye, whatever. I'm sure a lot of people in the chat love him. But he shouldn't be burning you for 2 deep touchdowns. Shouldn't be happening. So I like all of you, want to hold out hope. I really, really do. I came into this season with extremely high expectations for this team. Those expectations have quickly gone away. This isn't a 162-game baseball season where you can afford a slow start.
Yeah.
The Reds got done in by a slow May. I hate to break it to you, but regardless of how things go, the Bengals very well may have been done in by a very slow start to September.
Trace Fowler comes in with some maybe half-hearted encouragement, but we'll take any encouragement we can get at this point. He says, just 1 game behind the Ravens and Pittsburgh is frauds. You can still win the division. It's a wonderful mindset. Maybe I'll be there tomorrow, but not where I'm at right now. Speaking of tomorrow, I know it's 11:40 on the East Coast, about to be midnight, but that doesn't change anything for us. Tuesday night, 6 p.m., just coming up. Tomorrow, we're going to have a full in-depth Chatterbox Bengals breakdown on Tuesday night, breaking down this game, breaking down the film, talking about what went wrong, what little went right, and trying to find some silver linings for this Bengals team as we go into week 4 against the Panthers, Andy Dalton, and another team that's supposed to be at the bottom of the league, but at this point, I'm not so sure the Bengals aren't as well. So no easy wins on the schedule by any means starting now if we didn't start after week 1. And if this game wasn't a must-win, then I don't know what next week is. Because if you start 0-4, then you could not be more dead. So next week, tomorrow, Chatterbox Bengals, 6 p.m. Tuesday night. We're going to break down this game, have all the film for you, and talk about everything going on there. And then on Thursday, we're going to turn the page and look ahead to the Panthers. One of these days, I'm going to be here on a Sunday night, Monday night, not talking about turning the page. I'm going to talk about celebrating a win, relishing in a good game, but that day is not today. 38-33 final. The Commanders come into Cincinnati, get the win on Monday Night Football. The Bengals started slow in years past, but this hole much deeper than they've ever been in. 0-3 to start this season. Losses to the Patriots and Commanders at home. Lost in Kansas City to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs last weekend. We got to change something fast if we want to stay competitive, because you are barely treading water. If anything, you might be drowning now. So we'll be back tomorrow, breaking it all down. Hopefully have a little bit more energy and a little bit more excitement for you guys. Craig, if you want to say any last words before we get out of here, I'm going to try to clear my head a little bit.
Here's your last thoughts. For those of you that think next week's going to be easy, you're going up against Andy Dalton in a revenge game. He just went 26 of 37 for 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. Oh, by the way, Deontay Johnson, who's a Bengals killer, is on that team. He went 8 for 122 and a touchdown. Oh, by the way, if you think, okay, well, we'll just play a lot of zone or double up on Deontay, Chuba Hubbard went 21 for 114, a 5.4 yard per cap average on that one. I know the Raiders aren't good, but I hate to break it to you, neither are the Bengals.
Yeah, and more bad news. If you think our pass rush has been bad so far, how about the Panthers having the second best pass block win rate so far for an O-line? So Andy Dalton's probably going to have all day back there. Certainly not a chalked up easy win, but just a reminder, tomorrow, 6 p.m., we'll break down the film from this game, and then Thursday at 7, we'll preview that Panthers matchup. For Jacob Tissot here taking you through the game, Craig Sandlin joining me for the post game. That'll do it for week 3. All right. One more.
I've got one more stat that I just saw on X.com. And
positive or negative?
Listen, terrible.
Oh no.
Since 1920, teams with 0 turnovers, 0 punts, and at least 33 points scored were 112-0 coming into tonight. Bengals add a 1 to the L column on that one. Unreal effort tonight out of that defense. Let me tell you what.
Talk about vintage Bengals. Adding a 1 to a record that no one's ever lost with before. A collection of stats no one's ever lost with before. That's vintage right there. I think that stat is a perfect summation of tonight. Monday Night Football certainly wish the Bengals would be able to get back on track on Ring of Honor night. That not the case, like Craig just said. A historic loss on a great night for the offense. That's going to do it for Chatterbox Bengals postgame. Jacob Tissot, Craig Sandlin here taking you through it. We'll see you again tomorrow night at 6 p.m.